Hello everyone, huge show for you tonight on VAFA Tragics. We've got the fallout from the University Oval. We'll talk about that in depth. We'll also look at the finals race in Premier B. The relegation battle in Premier C is heating up as we go into the last round. And we'll look at all the finals matchups in the divisions. Stay tuned, VAFA Tragics coming up right now. Hello everyone, welcome to VAFA Tragics. Great to have your company. We do have a big show, as I mentioned, lined up. As we get straight into it, let's welcome Nick Armistead from the VAFA.
Andrew, great to be here tonight.
Brenton Mann, taking a look at division finals. I'm interested to hear your thoughts. We'll talk about that later on.
Yes, it's heating up. I'm feeling a little bit underdressed sitting next to Nick here with his shirt
Good
and
point.
tie.
Very well raised.
Looks very professional.
Very sharp in the suit there, Nick.
I appreciate it.
Let's get straight into it. We'll start off with the Nutrients Direct Performance Play of the Week. Nick, who did you have in your sights this week?
I had Patrick Notaro from North Brunswick. Now, North Brunswick started pretty poorly this year. They wouldn't have been totally stoked with how they started, but they've come really good. Unfortunately, they missed finals, but he's kicked 9 consecutive bags of 4 goals or more, including an 8, a 6, and 3 bags of 5. So Patrick Notaro, fantastic form, and congratulations on your Performance Player of the Week.
Brenton.
I go to Division 2, and a man that doesn't get the kudos sometimes he deserves. Sometimes for me, he doesn't get the kudos, but Aaron Thornton with the club record 16 goals on the weekend in St John's.
Who does he play for?
St John's.
Yeah, St John's, right, yeah.
In a 283-point win over Richmond Central. He was 10 behind Ben Gill before that. Now he takes out the goal kicking award on 75. Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, super effort from Aaron. I'm also going to a goal kicking machine. That's Matt Hanley from Old Zavs. Kicked 5 against the top of the table Blues. And I mean, that leads us straight into our discussion on William Buck Premier. Zavs beating Blues to move into the top 2, knock Blues from the top of the perch, and obviously a bit of discussion about how that game was moved. It was not played at University's Oval. If you're just catching up with the news, it was played at Ransford Oval, which is the home of West Brunswick. The VAFA ordered an inspection of the Oval earlier in the week, and that inspection saw that the Oval was unfit for play. Now, in terms of the game, as I mentioned, Hanley kicked 5 goals, 13 goals to 6. Blues inaccurate at times, but really Zavs were the better team on the day, and they go into finals on a real hot vein of form for 8 goals. But I do want to get into the situation that led to the game at University Oval being moved to Ransford Oval. But before we do that, I just want to show you some vision here. This is CEO Michael Sholly speaking about playing on grounds in the VAFA that might be under a bit of duress earlier this year on July 12. Do you have a view on the standard of grounds in terms of preventing perhaps thirds or under-19s and maybe even reserves teams from playing on the ground before the premium product, which is the senior competition taking place at 2 o'clock, which those teams chopping up the grounds and making the main event possibly less of an appealing spectacle?
My opinion of that would be that I get really disappointed when I go to an AFL game and there's no reserves game on before it. You know, to go, like I grew up watching Collingwood and going to Victoria Park and watching the seconds and watching the first. I think a lot of people really enjoy going to watch the last quarter or last half of the seconds before they watch the game. I think it's just a part of our sport and what we do. I don't think we've got alternatives for reserves. We haven't got 100 grounds for people to go and play on. I think that's just the fact of it.
And the seniors aren't playing at 9 o'clock.
Well, I think that, we do get a little bit precious because when I look at footy flashbacks and see the MCG, the state of the MCG for grand finals 20 and 30 years ago when cricket pitches were on the oval, there was dust everywhere, all mud on the practice wickets on the half-forward flank.
Okay, so with that in mind, Nick, I know you may not know all the answers to this, but I think a lot of our viewers out there would like to just understand it. There's a few questions that come out of a game being moved like this. The first one is we've learnt that a number of clubs raise questions about the state of the University Oval, having played there. Why wasn't an inspection ordered before this week?
Well, first, I just want to touch on that footage that we just saw of Michael, and it was a VAFA board, football operations decision, not just Michael Sholly's decision.
Oh, of course,
so
yeah.
Let's not hang that on him.
No, I'm certainly not hanging out Michael there, but I'll just say it was just funny in the context of
how it's worked out.
How it's worked out, yeah.
No, absolutely. Well, with those previous complaints, they all came after the fact. They weren't, we need to have these checks sort of thing. So they played there, whether they had injuries or not, and whether they can be attributed to the actual ground you could never give evidence to suggest that.
So if that's the case, if you're the VAFA and you've received 3 questions about the ground, do you not order an independent assessment before then anyway, off the back of that?
Well, that's probably a question to ask the VAFA board to see whether they would or not. But as you said, if it ever came before the fact, if a club ever came forward and said, no, well, we want these checked, it would obviously be checked.
Now, we understand this week that, of course, University Blacks, who are going to be hosting the University Derby in round 18 against Uni Blues, do have to do another independent inspection. Now, I understand a couple of reports were done. There was the one commissioned by the VAFA, which was done by a group called VRA. And they suggested that the ground was 25 to 30%, not suitable for play, whereas the Melbourne University ordered an audit from a group called Endeavour Turf, and they asserted that 15% of the ground was questionable and unsuitable for play. Firstly, there's a discrepancy between the two reports, so I'd love to know how that happens, and we are unable to get comment from either of those two organisations about that at this stage. Secondly, what percentage of the ground needs to be adequate, or what percentage is acceptable for the ground to be suitable to play on?
Well, that's the big question that everybody's really asking. I think that's where a lot of the confusion is coming from. But from the VAFA's point of view, if you're going to employ someone like VRA to do the ground inspection, to do the job, and if you're not going to trust what they say, then what's the point of employing them? So they've said what they've said. The VAFA board have to go with what they say.
Now, Brendan, you've played in a lot of grounds in the VAFA. Yes. Arguably, centre wicket areas in particular, that's probably covers 15 to 20% of the ground. Often are not, you wouldn't call them suitable for play during the depths of winter.
And if you take the field of play and the surface is deemed unsuitable, that could affect your insurance if you get injured. I'm not too sure about that. I don't know. I'm not an insurance lawyer. I don't know.
Well, that raises a good point, though. So if the inspection goes ahead this week, and I think from my understanding, from speaking to both Blues and Blacks, they're probably happy to play on the ground regardless of the situation, but they do have to get that report. If that assessment comes back and says, no, we probably recommend, or it comes up with a 15 or 20% ranking, again, of unsuitability to play, and both clubs say we're happy to play, do they then get players to sign waivers saying we won't sue, or we won't have an insurance claim?
Well, that might be necessary, and speaking with some of the players, that's the serious part. Like, they're looking at it from the point of view as we're losing a home ground advantage, but if it comes to them now to say, can you sign a waiver? Now they've got to look at it. It's a bit more serious now, and there might actually be something wrong with the ground. So it's up to those clubs to see where they're going to. It's up to the playing group.
It's certainly an emotive issue. We probably can't do it justice in the 1 or 2 minutes that we've spoken about it here. And I think there's still a lot more to play out in this. I know that obviously Uni Oval will have to have further considerations into how its surface is managed in the following years for both the university football clubs, but also looking ahead to this week. And I'm not sure what that means for the Uni Derby this week and whether that indeed goes ahead at Uni Oval.
Just looking forward, especially on that, with the expansion of the women's competition in 2017 and beyond, the amount of football that's going to be played on that, training multiple times a week.
It already is. They already play on Sunday, the ladies football plays at Melbourne Uni Oval. So it's an unbelievable amount of traffic for both clubs training there obviously during the week as well. So it's an unbelievable amount of traffic through that oval.
This is a much different week as opposed to last week for the playing group, though. Last week they had that home ground advantage. This week they don't so much because the two uni teams are playing against each other. So there's
they lost the home ground advantage when the game was moved.
So there's probably there's probably a thought now that you're going to be playing on dry decks and probably better decks in September in the final. So why would you not want to now probably move away from Uni Oval, especially if it comes back that it's not deemed fit to play?
On to the rest of the games. Nick, you had a bit of a look at Old Carey as they tried to get a second win of the season. They couldn't do so, but more importantly, Collegians have avoided relegation. They were in doubt there for going into the last two games.
Absolutely they were, and they were fantastic, especially offensively, where they probably lacked this year. Matt Singleton kicked 3 in the first term as the hard-bodied Lions midfielders won plenty of the ball through the middle of the ground and gave their forwards consistent delivery for a 38-point quarter-time lead. While the Young Panthers toiled away, there were no match for the New Look offensive lines as they registered 16 scoring shots to 43. Will Johnson has been a revelation over the past few weeks up forward. Now, he was in the VAFA Sarful game, the Big V game at centre-half back, full-back, and he's kicked 7 goals on the weekend. He's kicked 13 up forward for the past 3 weeks. So they've changed it around a little bit there, and he's turned out fantastically. But unfortunately, the season is ending along the same lines it has gone for most of the year for the Panthers. Injuries, inability to score for lengthy periods, and leaking points. They average 118 points against. They're willing enough at the contest with James Gath, Ben Smithwick and Jack Harris showing fight, but often it was their disposal errors on the outside which let them down. I know they were down on tackling pressure, which is a key feature of their game and has really stood out this season.
In other games, Old Trinity beat St Kevin's to move to top of the table. A big win for them and important. The Tees have now won 6 in a row, which is an important win. Old Melburnians had a good win as well, and their season's been fantastic. So congratulations to everyone at OMs for a great year. Tommy Paul, I don't have it in the 4 questions. I reckon he can win the Woodrow. Do you reckon?
That's a smoky. Yeah, it's good.
Absolutely, but he'll be getting votes taken off.
Former winner of the Moore Medal in Premier B.
Matt Thomas has been fantastic.
Yeah, but he's been a bit in and out this year.
Nick
He
DeSider.
doesn't wear the bright yellow boots like Tommy Paul does.
Look, Tommy Paul's fantastic, and you're probably right. He'll be up there. He could be right up there.
St Bernard's, they needed to win, and we championed it last week on the show. They couldn't quite get the chocolates against University Blacks, going down by 10 points at the Snake Pit. It means the Premiers will be relegated. First side to be relegated, having won a premiership since Old Haileybury back in 2006-07, going from the 2006 premiership of Old Haileybury in A grade as it was then, and then getting relegated the following year.
It's going to be interesting to see which way they go down in Prem B. Do they just write this year off as injuries curtailed their year, or do they write it off as maybe teams have gone past them? I'm not sure, but interesting years in 2017 for Carey and St Bernard's.
I think from the St Bernard's point of view, you can say it's a lack of personnel, missing personnel in inopportune times throughout the year, because when they've showed up, when they've got those players back like a Boyce, like a Bentic, they have proven that they're still right up there.
We'll have a look at St Bernard's and Old Carey in Premier B next season. That's it for William Buck Premier section. 1 round to go, which we can look forward to. Only the top 4 play each other. Some interesting questions come out of that. We'll talk about those in the 4 questions. We'll be back right after this with more on VAFA Tragics.
Anytime is the right time to get fit at Anytime Fitness. Access over 400 gyms across the country 24/7 and discover why more Australians train at Anytime Fitness than any other gym. Go online and register now for your free 7-day pass and feel something better.
Welcome back to the Tragics. Bit of heated debate going through the ad break there about the situation at Uni Oval. We'd love to bring it to you, but as I said, we don't have enough time. But that leads us into Premier B. Brenton, Fitzroy and Old Scotch, we talked up this game last week. It didn't quite deliver the showpiece we were hoping for, but for Old Scotch, they'd be pretty happy.
Yeah, they jumped to 3rd spot, and Fitzroy drop out of the 4th, down to 5th, as Scotch were 55-point winners over Fitzroy at Brunswick Street Oval. Jack Bull and Ash Lim were sensational for the Cardinals, and they kicked 11 of the last 13 goals of the game and just ran out 55-point winners.
Yeah, big win for the Cardinals. So they've beaten the Royals twice this year. The other results, Nick, in Premier B, Beaumaris going down to Old Brighton, and they've lost top spot and probably flagged favouritism.
Crazy stuff for Beaumaris. I don't know what's going down at Beaumaris at the moment, but they've lost 2 in a row now with Fitzroy a couple of weeks ago.
It's a big loss at home.
That's a massive loss at Bankshire, and they'd want to pull something together heading into the finals.
Rovers and Old Haileybury are the 2 relegated sides from Premier B. Old Haileybury, a year after winning a premiership, they join which other club? Old Paradians.
Old Paradians, yes.
Old Paradians in Division 1, who get relegated after winning a flag. So disappointing result for the Bloods. And Monash Blues defeated Parkdale Vultures. They move into the 4. So where does that leave us next week? Let's take a look at the games next week of importance. Brendan, Parkdale versus Fitzroy. Huge game.
Huge game. Fitzroy must win to have any shot of jumping into the 4. And
Old Scotch Hampton Rovers, that's at Camberwell.
Yes, and you'd think Old Scotch would get that.
Probably hang on to their spot in the 4. And St Bede's Mentone Tigers, Monash Blues. This is the interesting
That's
one.
the big one.
Do St Bede's with top spot?
Well, they're top 2.
Top 2 solidified. Do they rest players? Maybe put a couple on ice for the week following, and Monash Blues, they must win, so it's an absolutely fascinating game.
Is that flirting with form if they do, though?
It is flirting with form, but sometimes you can flirt with form and it pays off.
They've just regained top spot. They're the form side now of Premier B.
I wouldn't go there, but
I don't think you flirt with form. No. On to Premier C, fascinating stuff. We've talked about the relegation battle. It is huge. Any one of 4 teams at the bottom can go down. After Ormond defeated Oakley, which was both of those sides in the bottom section of the ladder, but it just means everything's all even and all to play for going into the last round.
Absolutely fantastic. This is what we want. And also Marcelin tied with Mazenod as well, which is
second draw of the year for Marcelin. Potentially costly draws because they're not out of the race yet either.
They're not out of the race. It's going to be a fascinating final round of Prem C.
Peninsula defeated Old Camberwell, which leaves them still questioning where they're at. Williamstown lost to Kew was the only redundant game, and Caulfield and Old Ivanhoe, of course, it didn't have any ramifications necessarily for those sides. So the top 4's done in Premier C. The bottom 4 is where the questions are. Old Camberwell hosting Ormond is a huge game. Winner stays up.
Yes.
Or not necessarily.
No.
Ormond's probably still need to win and win by a bit. But if they don't win, they're gone. Oakley versus Caulfield Grammarians. Caulfield Grammarians can't move in their position, so do they run out of full side as well?
And Oakley have proven that they can beat the top sides.
Yeah.
They've beaten Old Ivanhoe
Yes.
this year and Peninsula. So maybe not Masman, but Peninsula. They've proven that they can do it against the big teams.
And we mentioned Marsland, still not out of it yet. They've got to beat Kew on their home deck as well. And Kew, given their huge return to form last week with a big win over Willie, they will want to go out the season with a big win as well.
It's going to go down right to the final siren on Saturday. It's got a bit of the... Is it the EPL where they did the final...
Yeah, absolutely.
Final
Match of the
Saturday?
day.
Match of the day.
Oh,
That's
it's fantastic stuff. Yeah, we'll see what the scores are. Almost maybe we do that next week on the Tragics. We'll take a look then. Let's have a look at the divisions though, Brenton. As I mentioned, Old Paradians relegated a year after winning that elusive premiership, first senior flag since the 80s for the Paradians, for the Green Machine, but they got relegated on the final day of the season.
They did, and it was Knobs who held on, who took their spot in Division 1, as they had a 51-point win over the Friars. We had Kyle Adams with 6 goals and Gerard Bence with 4 goals, and we had Bence finishing with 33 goals for the year, and Adams with 28, and Knobs with a late season charge. Hold on. And we'll move on to the finals. This is the stuff we really want to talk about. We've got Division 1, Old Geelong versus Old Mentonians. This is a very fascinating matchup. Old Geelong has stormed into the finals. They are flying. They beat Old Mentonians 2 weeks ago in round 17. Albeit, Old Mentonians were apparently missing 6 or 7 of their best players, but read into that what you will. I think Ogs will get that one. And then
At Sports Cover Arena.
Sports Cover Arena, 2:10 on Saturday. And the Division 1 final on Sunday will sees Pegs versus Theory Penola at Bill Laurie Oval. It's a fantastic venue, Bill Laurie Oval, absolutely magnificent. I give that to Pegs. They're 4-1 in the last 5 weeks. Theory Penola 2-3. Joe Bannister might carry them over the line, but I'm not too sure. Now we'll move on to Division 2. We've got St John's versus West Brunswick. This is a fascinating duel. St John's just got over West Brunswick 2 weeks ago in round 17 at Ransford Oval. Now St John's had a pretty, fair to say, soft game against Richmond Central in the final round, but they're absolutely flying. They've lost one for the year, but don't discount West Brunswick in finals. The other
at Sports Cover, so that's a Trevor Barker Oval. That game.
Oval.
So the other thing about finals, which is interesting, is clubs that come and play at brand new grounds that they've never played at. Generally, they're playing at better quality grounds.
Yes.
The surfaces are better. The field is a lusher field because we're heading into spring. It's a real different ballgame.
I was at Trevor Barker Oval on the weekend. It is in ripping nick, and the only thing you got to contend with there, the southwesterly that comes through the forward pocket down towards the club rooms there, and that's the only thing you got to contend with. The service is immaculate. Now, the last time St John's was at Trevor Barker Oval, I probably shouldn't bring this up. They lost to Glen Ira in the second semi-final in 2011. No, hopefully it's a better hunting ground for them this time around. Now, Preston face Yarra Valley. Yarra Valley held on, where Melbourne High did not defeat West Brunswick in the last round. It's fantastic for Yarra Valley. Preston versus Yarra Valley on Sunday at Whitefriars, 2 p.m. Now, Division 3. Fascinating duel, this one in Division 3. UHSVU versus Powerhouse. These are the two sides that have been on massive winning streaks in the back end of the year. That's a 50-50 game for mine. I can't tip a winner. The other final is Latrobe versus...
I'll say UHSVU just because Brenton won't say anything.
I'll go Powerhouse.
Oh, sorry.
Yep.
sorry. I'm not allowed to sit on the fence. Anyway, I'm not allowed to get splinters. Latrobe versus South Melbourne Districts at Westbourne Grammar School at 2 p.m. on Saturday. I'll give that to Latrobe. And the Division 4 final sees Westbourne Grammarians versus Point Cook at St Bernard's Oval, number 1, 2 p.m. on Saturday. I'll give that to Westbourne Grammarians. They're flying. Ely Park Sharks versus Mount Lilydale at St Bernard's Oval, number 2 at 2 p.m. on Saturday. Both at the same time. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, it's good. I like it. At the same venue
to make
too.
it fair going into it.
That's very true. I'll give that to Ely Park Sharks.
You mentioned it before, sorry just to butt in, but
Yes.
how good is it someone like two Division 4 teams can play on St Bernard's? They can play on a
On the
Premier
snake pit.
Oval.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
I think congratulations to all clubs there that have allowed access. So Garvey Oval Paradians, St
Yep.
Bernard's, Westbourne Grammarians as well have allowed access. Also, De La Sells ground is being used, and Whitefriars as well. So great effort from all those clubs.
It's a nice little fill up for the clubs too. In a
Absolutely.
canteen and
Canteens
a
are
bar
great.
after the game.
Absolutely.
It's fantastic.
That's it.
That rounds out the division report.
On to the 4 questions. We're racing through it. I'm going to kick things off straight to you, Nick. Is it better for Blacks to lose to Blues this weekend, thus avoiding them having to play? Because if they beat them, they're going to have to play them again the following week anyway.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. There is no form like winning form. You do not flirt with it. Look, they don't
But
have...
if they beat them, and they show everything to beat them,
They
they've
don't-
got to do it again the following week.
Yeah, no, that's a point in itself. That's a point in itself. So I think they maybe don't show you all your cards. I don't think Blues, you'd say they are going to show all their cards because
Blues
they're
obviously want to win to get
fighting
top
for
two.
the double
but
chance.
yeah, I'm just saying, if Blacks throw everything at them, do they bother throwing everything at them? Anyway,
Yeah. All right, I'm going to come at you, Brent.
Okay.
Has Ben Gill been robbed?
No, he hasn't been robbed. You're speaking obviously of Aaron Thornton kicking 16 goals against Richmond Central, who probably didn't have the best side in round 18. Ben Gill kicked 3, and he went to 72 goals, and Aaron Thornton finished off 75. They both had the same amount of games for the year. Elton played Richmond Central twice during the year, so unfortunately, you're not going to victimise a man just for the success of his club, just because his club's
get on with it.
up and about. So no, he wasn't robbed.
Absolutely.
Sorry, I went a big David Burden there. Sorry,
Yeah,
boys.
get on with it.
And I will go to you, Andrew.
Yep.
What will the makeup of the top 4 be in Premier B?
Oh, easy. It'll be Bo Morris and St Bede's Mentone Tigers going out on a limb there, followed by Old Scotch, and I think Fitzroy will make it. I think, all things considered, yes, we can throw up that Wilson Bede's rest players. Obviously, Monash need to win to stay in. So do Fitzroy. I think Fitzroy, with their draw against Parkdale, probably make it in for their first ever finals appearance in Premier B. Finally, should we have a mercy rule on the VAFA?
No.
Why not? Richmond Central, I'm going back to that game
Yes,
again.
I know.
283 to 0.
I know.
I think if you're battling that much for injuries and you're struggling, I just don't think it does anyone any favours.
Well, maybe
winning by 283
actually, maybe
points.
in the last round when a top 4 side's playing and maybe a bottom 4 side and there's nothing really to play for, maybe you do have a mercy rule. But I don't. Do we need any more rules in football? I
no,
don't
we
think
don't.
so.
Well,
There was no mercy rule when we had 12 players at Como Park one day when we got smacked by 241 points.
I don't want to harp on it, but I reckon Ben Gill would be for a
Oh,
mercy
you and
rule.
Ben Gill. No
Hope-
mercy rule.
We hope you've enjoyed it. It's been a robust conversation tonight on the Tragics. We'll catch you again soon, and good luck to your teams in finals. We'll see you again next week.